Good morning, everyone. Please be seated and turn in your liturgy books to page 2 and begin this morning's liturgy practice. Gata of Atonement, all evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. Nikaya 3 Refuges. Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Dhammam Saranam Gacchami. Dhammam Saranam Gacchami. Sangham Saranam Gacchami. Sangham Saranam Gacchami. I take refuge in Buddha. I take refuge in Buddha. I take refuge in Dharma. I take refuge in Dharma. I take refuge in Sangha. I take refuge in Sangha. The 5 remembrances. I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape having ill health. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature of change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My deeds are my closest companions. I am the beneficiary of my deeds. My deeds are the ground on which I stand. I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape having ill health. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature of change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My deeds are my closest companions. I am the beneficiary of my deeds. My deeds are the ground on which I stand. I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape having ill health. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature of change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My deeds are my closest companions. I am the beneficiary of my deeds. My deeds are the ground on which I stand. This precious human life, rarely encountered, is easily lost. Now that I have life and opportunity, may I practice the Dharma wholeheartedly. Mahayana refuge. In my heart, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. May I liberate suffering beings and bring them to great joy. May the compassionate spirit of love grow within me, that I may actualize the great way. In my heart, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. May I liberate suffering beings and bring them to great joy. May the compassionate spirit of love grow within me, that I may actualize the great way. In my heart, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. May I liberate suffering beings and bring them to great joy. May the compassionate spirit of love grow within me, that I may actualize the great way. Invocation of the lineage. I give thanks for the guidance of my teachers. For the lineage of teachers before them, I give thanks and offerings for their devoted practice of generosity, moral discipline, patience, joyful effort, concentration, wisdom, skillful means, unshakable vow, spiritual powers, and awakened awareness for my benefit. May their years of life be lengthened, may their vows be completely realized, and may I cultivate these perfections with their guidance. 7 practices of the Bodhisattva. I bow down in body, speech, and mind. I offer the best I have to give, both real and imagined, to fill the space between us. I regret and purify all transgressions. I rejoice in all virtues. I request you to remain until total enlightenment. I request wise and compassionate guidance. I dedicate my merit for the sake of all beings. Generating love and compassion. May all sentient beings be free from clinging and hatred. Being close to some and distant from others, how wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will free them from clinging and hatred. Bless me to accomplish this. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the causes of happiness. How wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will bring them happiness and the causes of happiness. Bless me to accomplish this. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. How wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will free them from suffering and the causes of suffering. Bless me to accomplish this. May all sentient beings have the joy that has never known suffering. May they be free from clinging, hatred, jealousy, miserliness, doubt, pride, wrong view, ignorance, and dualistic thoughts. How wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will bring them to this state. Bless me to accomplish this. Please stand for the Heart Sutra, which you will find on page 4 of your liturgy book. Great Prajna Paramita Heart Sutra. Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, practicing deep Prajna Paramita, clearly saw that all 5 skandhas are empty, transforming all suffering and form, sensation, perception, mental reaction, consciousness are also like this. Shariputra, all things are essentially empty, not born, not destroyed, not stained, not pure, without loss, without gain. Therefore in emptiness there is no form, no sensation, perception, mental reaction, consciousness, no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, no color, sound, smell, taste, touch, object of thought, no seeing, and so on, to no thinking, no ignorance, and also no ending of ignorance, and so on, to no old age and death, and also no ending of old age and death, no suffering, cause of suffering, cessation, path, no wisdom, and no attainment, since there is nothing to attain. The Bodhisattva lives by prajna paramita, with no hindrance in the mind, no hindrance, and therefore no fear, far beyond elusive thinking. Right here is nirvana. All Buddhas of past, present, and future live by prajna paramita, attaining Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore know that prajna paramita is the great sacred mantra, the great vivid mantra, the unsurpassed mantra, the supreme mantra, which completely removes all suffering. This is truth, not mere formality. Therefore set forth the prajna paramita mantra, set forth this mantra and proclaim Gate Gate Para Gate Parsam Gate Bodhisvaha Gate Gate Para Gate Parsam Gate Bodhisvaha Gate Gate Para Gate Parsam Gate Bodhisvaha. Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, existing right here now. Whenever these devoted invocations are set forth, they are perceived and subtly answered. We dedicate their merits to all members of our human family throughout space and time. We especially dedicate their merits to those who suffer as a result of injustices, calamity, cruelty, and war. We also offer these dedications to those whose names we hold in the silence of our hearts, as well as those whose names we now voice aloud. May we live in perfect peace with Buddha Dharma, and may we realize the Buddha way together. All Buddhas throughout space and time. All honored ones, Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, wisdom beyond wisdom, Mahaprajna, Paramita. Thank you, everyone. I believe we have Dharma school today. So anyone who is participating in Dharma school is free to exit the Zendo, and the rest of us will sit for 20 minutes of Zazen.
Please rise for Kinhin and offer meditation. At the sound of the clappers, you'll turn to first and middle rows will turn to their right, second and fourth to your left. We will now recite the Song of Covenant, which you will find at the top of your liturgy book on page 8.
We, the Daishin Kokuchi Sangha, with respect for the worth and dignity of each person, with wonder at the wisdom and compassion we seek to cultivate by practice, and with deep gratitude for the teachers of this lineage and our connection to one another, covenant to support each other by upholding the precepts of doing no harm, practicing good, and actualizing good for others.
Thank you. Please be seated for today's Dharma talk. Sit comfortably so you can see the teachers. And we'll begin by reciting Gatha on Opening the Sutra, also on page 8, at the sound of the gong.
Gatha on Opening the Sutra. The Dharma incomparably profound and infinitely subtle is rarely encountered even in millions of ages. Now we see it, hear it, receive and maintain it. May we completely realize the Tathagata's true meaning.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here on such a sunny day And thank you, Roshi, for saw you cracking some windows open, reminding us what the temperature is actually like outside. There's something about the cold, especially when the snow hits, that brings some deeper cold. I hope everyone's keeping warm, but it brings a deeper sense of the silence as well, especially those people who have some sesshin experience in the winter can attest to this. The quiet is heavy, but heavy like a weighted blanket. Be very comfortable. We often talk about that silence in the winter as an invitation to turn inward. And this can also come with a sense of stillness if we glance out the window, we might get a sense that there's a lot of stillness in the world in the winter. But today I wanted to kind of point at the idea that this stillness is not actually inactivity. A lot of us, we just came out of the holidays, and for most of us, the holidays itself can attest to the fact that this is not a period of inactivity. Just in our own home, we had a gas problem right before Christmas, and we could not get it resolved. So like on the 23rd, we were out at the appliance store buying like the last coil electric stove of the correct color that they had, putting it in the back of a pickup truck that we had borrowed from my father-in-law, and not really tying it down, and very carefully driving home so that we could actually have Christmas dinner. My daughter is transferred from university to local college, and so she started up her education again. My mother-in-law, as some of you may know, is fighting cancer, and so there was having Christmas there and being supportive of her as they moved into a new home. My daughter-in-law lost her father tragically over the holidays, and that was a difficult time. It continues to be a difficult time. And I teach. It's the end of a semester, so we're like ramping up and getting ready for the new one. And that's just my house. You have your own experiences at home, and if you look around the temple, the kitchen's just, I was going to say on fire, but no. It's hot, the kitchen's so active, and we had this Establishing a Buddhist Practice class, which I can remember some of the earlier iterations of it. We were in the Red Room, but that's become more people are coming to that, and all the people online. We have the Lam Rim getting ready to start up. We've got the Seijin class for the youth coming of age, a new Jukai class forming, tons of sewing getting ready to take place. And so in the midst of all this quiet, still winter, there's a ton of activity. And so that activity brings me to want to talk about it in the form of right action. So for those of you who are newer to Buddhism, you may or may not recognize that right action is part of the Noble Eightfold Path. It's like one of the core element teachings of the Buddha. In his great awakening, he saw through the nature of existence, the nature of suffering, which was what he went out to explore. He saw that it pervaded everywhere. He saw that it had a source. He saw that it had a way that it could come to an end. And then, of course, well, how do you do that? And the teaching that emerged from that was this Noble Eightfold Path. How do you live in a way that alleviates suffering in the world? And it was interesting because I've been working through each of these, and every time I dig a little deeper into the next one, I have this moment of, oh, right view. This is the totality of the Eightfold Path. Oh, this is the gates of goldenness open and everything like that. And then I get onto right intention and dig a little deep. Oh, wow, no, it is right intention, and it encompasses. And so I went through that same process again today with right action. But it was so beautiful to do this liturgy and this zazen today in the presence of preparing for this talk, because I got to really carefully encounter things through this process of right action. And it might not seem like a whole lot. I mean, right action really can encompass everything about how we encounter our life, how we move through the world. And within the Buddhist teaching, it's no small thing. Whether we hear our teachers talk in the language of right action or not, we're hearing the teachings all the time. When we hear instruction about how we move in the zendo, how we participate in liturgy, whether you have a bell to ring or a space to occupy, you physically take up that space, and you embody. That's a word that'll come up in this. You embody what is arising in the moment of that liturgy. And for those of us who have done Jukai, I mean, right action is through so many of the precepts, often very directly, when we vow to take up the way of not killing, not stealing, not misusing sexuality, not sparing the Dharma assets, not indulging in anger. We can encounter those by thinking about them, but to live them is actually to embody that. And this is a very important distinction, because we can take those precepts, this idea of not killing or not stealing, how we use our body in the world, and we can think about that. We can turn it into, there are certainly ideas behind it. We can explore those as a mental exercise. And when we learn about Buddhism, we certainly encounter a lot of very interesting ideas, concepts about impermanence and, opaque words, it would seem, like awakening or enlightenment, and even things that are probably a little more obvious and down to earth, like compassion. But we could take a misstep and only engage in them as ideas. And that would be tragic. That'd be a great loss. Because none of these things in our practice have any real traction for the road unless we actually embody them, if we actually act on these things. I look to some of the texts that we've encountered in the past, and the first one I ran into, and I thought, oh, this will do for a writing, was from Thich Nhat Hanh and the Heart of the Buddhist Teaching, because he speaks right to right action, and he starts off by saying that right action means right action of the body. It is the practice of touching love, preventing harm, the practice of non-violence towards ourselves and others. this really connects with me. I can look to the actions, the right action elements of the precepts, but when it's given in these descriptions, this preventing harm, my ideas will not prevent the harm in the end unless I act, unless I, sometimes my act is not to act. Speech feels like it falls into action as well. I have to take the act of communicating. And so a word not said, or maybe sometimes a hand has to be reached out to assist. And sometimes the best assistance is to not. I teach special needs kids, and it's its own series of challenges, but it's interesting that often the thing that is needed at the most critical moment is to just let them struggle with the question, let it sit. Sometimes they're so used to waiting for someone to bail them out that you have to wait for that to burn out too. And they realize no one's coming for me. Okay, I got to look at this. And sometimes they're having a really bad moment, and sometimes the right action is no action. Just let it burn itself out. And sometimes you've got to dive right in and do something. It actually, Brother Secho was working in the kitchen, and he has little things from Dogen, his instructions to the cook to act as guidance, rotating on themes. And the one that took its spot today from Dogen Zenji in this instructions to the Tenzo says, the mind which finds the way actualizes itself through working with rolled up sleeves. For those who have increasingly larger sleeves, we know this. It's hard to do much. These things actually come with like little ties, so when you really got to go, you can like pull them back. But I get this. And so thoughts and intentions, the last one I had talked about was right intention and right speech. But these things have a power, but again, that power is magnified when it's put into action. And this is a very important thing for us to remember, especially in our practice of Zen Buddhism. Because through the practice of Zazen, we do spend a lot of time still. And so that itself is not inactivity, although it would be easy to mistake it for that or to fall into it. But something I have heard from my teachers on more than one occasion, and that I constantly hear from Reverend Shokai, is that Zazen itself is an embodied practice. What do we hear in beginning instruction? Where do we put our awareness? We put it right into our physical center. It's not a randomly selected place. This is a culminating center of gravity and balance and spiritual power. The awareness of the body is concentrated. Even when our mind's not on it, the body's self-awareness in a way that I don't know I can entirely articulate it, is concentrated in this portion of our body. And we place our awareness there. We could place our awareness elsewhere. And sometimes under the direction of a teacher, it might be what's called for. But in Zazen, this is the spot. And it's no random thing that we're putting it into our body. And just being human, this is also very important because we can get trapped in our heads very easily if we're not careful. The obvious ones, when I started writing them, I took note of the ones I wrote down first: worry, anxiety, fear. I do very badly in the winter. And this has been a hard winter. Worry, anxiety, and fear are my first three friends through the day that I practiced with. And it can be very debilitating. And it's interesting, even outside of the practice of Zen, the advice that we'll often give to people through parenting or general mindfulness activities, or people who are in therapeutic professions, we have people come back into their bodies. They have people breathe deeply and feel that go in. It's a very human thing to want to connect back to the body, and it's a very human thing to recognize that getting stuck up in our heads is not so good. We can get trapped by the nice ideas too. Those of you who are taking this class of in establishing your Buddhist practice, well, just right there in the word establishing, something has to be done. It's more than just, reading the books. There are very good books out there. They're the gateway in for a lot of us. And then we want to know more. And then you come in for instruction and you get told how to occupy space and how to breathe. So again, back to this is an embodied practice. And so right action then emerges. I think about my own day. Sometimes the hardest right action is getting out of bed in the morning. In my house, mostly because our bedroom's particularly cold in the winter. It's just so nice. And then once they've been fed, the cats get on us. And so, you have responsibilities, but you also have that unwritten rule that if there is a cat on you, you don't have to do anything, right? This determines who, goes and makes the popcorn and things like that. But I don't know how employers would respond to this. But that action comes, and you rise. And I like to come back to this when a lot of my initial things in the morning are with Enmei, because she's with me. And my first few right actions in the morning, very mindful, are usually getting one foot out of the cover, because then the dominoes fall, and then feeling that ground beneath my feet. And then somewhere in there, finding wherever she is and giving her a kiss. Enmei has said that she can tell when I'm physically just giving her a hug and when I'm practicing that action. So there's a shift in the physical act is the same, and it's an act of compassion and an expression of love. And when right action shows up, there's a power behind that. That embodiment, it doesn't necessarily just have to come down to, I will help this person, I will do this nice thing. Helping people is great, and doing nice things is wonderful, and we should. But this embodiment comes back to our presence. We talk about physically occupying the space. We talk about that embodiment, but that itself rests on mindfulness. being very aware of how we're going to use our bodies as we act. You can walk across the room in a lot of different ways. You can walk across the room in ways that terrify other people and yourself. And you can walk across the room in ways that calm other people and ourselves. I love this big nasty thing, the Cormo. There is a wisdom in it because the sleeves are so long. There are only, a couple of reasonable ways to hold your body as you move through the Zendo. So the hands are in shashu, or they disappear forever into the sleeves. Or the hands are up in a bow. And I mean, when we learn how to navigate a Zendo, when we learn how to navigate the liturgy, and God help everyone who has to navigate robes or anything of that line, we're getting these additional pointers back to this mindful action. When I first started to look at this idea of right action, I thought, okay, it's largely the doing of things in the world. And what I found in my actual experience in terms of what it pointed back to, it was how I actually show up in my body and where my mind is in that effort. Every now and then you have this experience where a teaching just keeps coming back and keeps coming back and keeps coming back. And this brought me back to my earliest question in practice. And some of you have heard this story. The first time I got to meet a Zen master, I went to him and I said, Doka-san, I have started to experience some stability on the cushion. How do I get this to show up in my life? And he said, sit more, rang the bell, and that's the end of it. I felt pretty dismissed. I hadn't been practicing a year. And so many years later, when Doka-san with Rinsen began, I asked him the same question, having not told him the story. And he said, sit more, and rang the bell. That was the end of it. And how do I get to show it off the cushion? There had to be something there to look at. And in time, there's the nearest thing I could say is when I started sitting, it was this thing I would go do. And if there was a shift that made it accessible off the cushion, the shift was realizing that taking up the posture and counting the breath and focusing on the center was an embodied action that I became very good friends with, very familiar with. And it became something that I could recognize very quickly and from very far away. So that when worry, anxiety, and fear show up as three regular companions, I don't have to look far to find a more familiar one. I can feel my center. I can breathe, and the second I do, I can feel my entire body in the world. The same body, that wrote a note and stuck it in a deck of cards to ask a girl out almost 35 years ago or so. February 2nd, 1990. It's coming up. This same body that stood in front of a classroom for the first time and taught what he thought was a wonderful lesson, and then looked up at the board when the kids left and just was horrified by the mess of insane, disjointed ideas that I'd put up on the board. The same body that drove to Toledo for the first time to check out a Zendo in the front room of an Aikido dojo. The same body that held my mom's hand when she passed. And these are big moments. This body, uses the toilet like anyone else. This body is very well formed into the left side of my couch at home. So, I mean, you do have to sit. And I'm not, it's a disservice if I don't say more, especially to myself. It's true, it can't be skipped. We want to find whatever it is we're trying to find, whatever it is we're trying to do, or we think we're trying to find, or we think we're trying to do. Find that center, take up that space, embody. I mean, you're embodying the very awakening of the Buddha. Not if you do the counting right, but when you take up the very posture, whether today's your first time here, or today was the first time that you've ever done it, or you've been practicing a lifetime, it's the same embodiment. And then eventually, the bell's going to ring, and you're going to get up, and you're going to have to move, you're going to have to act, you're going to have to show up. And we can do that, again, in a way that terrifies people, or a way that brings stability and calm. And so we have this opportunity to show up, this bodhisattva way. It's an embodied practice. Ideas aren't going to do it. I guess that's what I leave with, is the hope for all of us. May we embody the wisdom and compassion of the Buddha and the ancestors for our own practice and for the liberation of all beings. May it be so.
We'll recite the Bodhisattva vows on page 8. Beings are numberless. I vow to freedom. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable.
embody it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Thank you everyone for coming today. After we have a few announcements, which I am sure we are going to have because we always do, we would invite you to share a lunchtime meal with us. But first,
Good morning, afternoon, everybody. My name is Kensei. After we have our delicious pasta meal, I want to invite everybody to come back into the Zendo at 1:30 for our annual meeting. It's not going to take too incredibly long. It's going to be fun and interesting. We're going to talk about some administrative reorganization that's happened, membership, all these new Dharma training opportunities. I hope you all can come. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jukai. I just wanted to thank everybody who's been renewing your membership, setting up new memberships. I'm going to be over by the office, and if you have any questions about membership, certainly you can bring them to the annual meeting this afternoon. We would love that. But about your own particular membership or joining or anything like that, please see me. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Irvin Kaishin. Just a real quick note, we have a community sewing day next weekend. It is machine focused on the making of the juban, which is the little white underjacket that we wear. This is kind of an important one in that if you are interested in helping to support the sewing, this is a very base component to a lot of the sewing that we're learning in terms of making shoken robes and kormo and things along those lines. And if you are interested in coming, there is going to be a video posted through our Facebook group in the next 48 hours that shows how to do the measurement and calculations ahead of time for anyone who is planning on coming and actually sewing along with me, as opposed to just taking notes or anything like that. So you can watch for that. When is it? Oh, the sewing weekend's next weekend on Saturday from 9 to 5. And yeah, we'll eat lunch together and stuff. Thank you.
I'm Reverend Wiese. I just wanted to let you know on Ankin's behalf that February session is coming up again. Please register. And if you've never been to one of our session retreats and that's something you'd like to explore, please get in touch with me about how to get involved with that. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Enmei. I'm the Jukai coordinator, and Jukai is the process of formally taking Buddhist precepts. So our 2024 cohort is forming now. We will start with preparation classes at the beginning of April, but it is important that you register early. We're hoping by the beginning of March at the latest. There's flyers at the front door if you'd like to learn more. You're welcome to ask me questions, and there's information on our website. Separate from that, from Jukai, Dharma School is having an organization meeting at the end of February. I think it's February 25th. It's a Sunday in the afternoon after service. Anyone who is interested in Dharma School for any reason, you are a parent of a school-age child, or you're interested in helping out with volunteering for Dharma School, any sort of stakeholder is welcome, so please set that date aside so that you can come. Thank you.
And the last announcement. Next Saturday is our home hermitage day. Please know that this is not just for distance members. This is for everyone in the Sangha. Very on topic with Reverend Kaishin's talk, right action. How do you integrate this practice into your day? So you should have gotten an email about it. There's an event on the Facebook page. If you have any questions, just ask me.
All right then, please restore the Zendo. Thank you.
Thank you.